Hello there. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new video. This is the third video in a series that I'm doing on this channel where I'm reviewing every single lightsaber duel in all of the live-action Star Wars movies. Last week we covered the fights in Attack of the Clones, and before that, The Phantom Menace. And today we are covering the 5 different fights from Revenge of the Sith, which is my personal favorite of the prequels, so I'm very excited for this. This is going to be an extra long video, so sit back, relax, and let's jump into it.
Your swords, please. We don't want to make a mess of things in front of the Chancellor.
You won't get away this time, Dooku.
Now, first of all, this is a fight that happens very early in the movie. This is, like, within the first act of the movie, within, like, the first 20 minutes, I think. So to have a lightsaber duel that early in the movie is obviously quite cool and something that I definitely appreciate a lot. But not only that, it's a really good fight. It's a really well-choreographed fight, and you can see how Anakin and Obi-Wan, but mostly Anakin, has become much more powerful in this last, little 3 years, I believe, between the last movie and this movie. And I like how also in this fight, Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting together, at least for the first part. Like, in the last time they fought Dooku, they were never fighting at the same time. I mentioned this in the last video because Anakin was impulsive, and then, it showed their relationship because they were never coordinated. They're coordinating together. You can see how their friendship has changed and how they've grown to appreciate each other more than from the last movie. Now, I love especially the moment when Obi-Wan gets knocked out, right here, actually, and Anakin is fighting Dooku, and Dooku says, "You have anger, you have hate, but you don't use them." And at that moment, Anakin taps into the dark side, and everything shifts. Tone shifts. All of a sudden, his fighting style is far more aggressive, and within seconds, he beats Dooku, cuts off his hands, and basically has him at his disposal within seconds. And you can see how much more powerful he becomes when he taps into the dark side. For the majority of this movie, it's been very lighthearted. It's been a lot of banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and it's been quite a light-hearted kind of fun adventure. So when he cuts off Dooku's head, all of a sudden the tone completely shifts. Everything is different, and you can just feel how this moment impacts the story of Anakin just did something bad, and that's a great way to start this movie, and I really appreciate this movie for that. Now, a few things that I really like about this duel, just like objective things. First of all, the choreography is great, and I love how they're swinging, and then, Anakin kicks him off that ledge, and I love the space battle that's happening in the background. It looks really cool, and I love that you can hear the distant sounds of the actual fight happening in the background. It makes it very visually and also sound-wise, a very cool experience for this duel, and it reminds us that there's a battle happening in the background. So I really, really appreciate that. Even though the duel is not super long, it's very effective, very well done. I would say it's better than the duel from Attack of the Clones, which I do personally kind of enjoy. So I think, and it does its purpose of, showing Anakin's shift to the dark side. So overall, a very, very solid duel. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
General Kenobi! You are a bold one.
So we're now on to the Grievous versus Obi-Wan fight. Now, this is a really cool fight because of Grievous. First of all, I gotta just mention, I love this reveal right here when he knocks off his cloak, cape, whatever you want to call it, and then his arms split apart as the 4 lightsabers are revealed. That's just really cool. But really, the main appeal of this fight is Grievous. It's not so much the fight or the choreography, it's just the fact that Grievous can do this cool stuff. I love this moment when he starts to spin the lightsabers like fans, and they start to, at really high speeds, and it makes this really, really cool sound that is very specific to him. And I think it just sounds really cool. It makes a really interesting kind of addition to this fight. And I think Grievous is a really cool character. I think that's what makes this fight cool. And I think that they do a pretty good job of making Obi-Wan look like he's actually fighting Grievous, who's of course CG. That being said, the fight is very short, and while I definitely enjoy it, it's a little bit more flashy than it is in terms of impactfulness, which I don't think is a bad thing, especially since there's a lot of fights here. But of course, a fight that is impactful is naturally going to be more interesting to me than a fight where Obi-Wan just fights a CGI robot.
How can you do this?
You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great fight. But that is just the truth behind it. And because of that, it isn't going to be as appealing to me. It's also quite a short fight. But again, I don't really care because Grievous is so cool. And I think visually he looks great. There's some great shots of him. And I think it's still quite well done. So, personally for me, it's a pretty good fight. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Solid fight. Let's go on to the next one. It's treason, then. Alright, so on to this fight. First of all, this is a great shot. And I think this is a great way of showing these Jedi Masters. This fight is a difficult one for me to review. Because, first of all, I love Palpatine. I love his reveal of his lightsaber. I love this moment. There's a moment here. I learned this from a Star Wars theory video. Where when he ignites his lightsaber and when he jumps in the air. So he makes this loud screeching sound, this loud screaming sound. And basically what that does is it's a force power called Force Scream that basically paralyzes all these Jedi, which is why they kind of just stand here and get killed. Which makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of a cool power. I like his, stabbing motion, and I love this moment. Even though people think it's a little goofy, I can't really like the moment when he kills all the Jedi Masters. I think it's really I think it's fun, I think it's cool, I like it. The one thing about this fight is that it's a bit goofy looking. Some of the choreography here is a bit really? These are, two of the most powerful people in the galaxy, and this is what it looks like when they fight? And it's not like this is the only fight that these guys have. And I don't fully buy the fact that these guys are super powerful. Now, that being said, while it is a bit goofy, I have to admit, I kind of love it. And I don't entirely know why, but I just have such a good time watching this fight. And while the fight itself is a little goofy at some parts, I will say that Anakin, when he comes in here and all this stuff with Palpatine zapping Mace Windu and getting his face zapped, and then when Anakin, you can see the confliction in Anakin until he finally kills Mace Windu. That's all great. That kind of turn and shift when he turns to the dark side. That's great. That's a great moment in this movie, and it's really, really well done. Either way, I still enjoy it. I still think it works and it gets the job done. So I'm going to give this fight a 7 out of 10. It's pretty good. It's not the best, but I love it. Great reveal. Yoda slaps him into the wall. Come on, man. That's just so good. It's so good. This is an awesome fight. I love this so much. Yoda versus Palpatine. Come on. Some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Some of the most powerful Force users ever. It's great. What I love the most about this fight is that it takes place in the Senate building. First of all, it's a metaphor for the Senate collapsing, with the pods being smashed and whatnot, and that's that kind of metaphor. But also, it's just really cool that they're in this giant Senate building. It's a very operatic kind of feel to it, which is kind of an explanation for this whole movie. Is it feels a lot like an opera, and I love that Palpatine uses the Force to swing these Senate pods at Yoda. And I love how every time Palpatine tries to use a Force power, Yoda does it back to him or does some sort of equivalent back to him. So he throws these Senate pods at Yoda. And then in a second, you'll see Yoda catches the Senate pod and holds it and, spins it around and then swings it back at Palpatine. He uses his own power against him. And Palpatine uses it in a very chaotic way, while Yoda is in a very controlled, calm, patient way. And it's the same thing here when Palpatine zaps Yoda and he blocks the lightning and then deflects it back at Palpatine. He uses Palpatine's power against him. By the way, that is a great shot right there. Look at that. Palpatine and Yoda are these two very powerful beings. And I love that nobody wins this fight, really. They both walk away from it. And none of them... I guess technically Palpatine gets the upper hand, but, really? If we're being honest, neither Yoda nor Palpatine really lose this fight. Both of them walk away from it, which is kind of the point. Because Yoda has to come into this fight and then leave and realize that he can't defeat Palpatine, while Palpatine can't kill Yoda, obviously, and can't also be killed because it wouldn't make sense later. So that was really well done. The one complaint I have with this fight is that Yoda kind of just gives up. You know what I mean? If we go over here, so Yoda falls down here, right? He just barely grabs on and then falls onto the ground. He's a Jedi. And one of the most powerful Jedi Masters. So why doesn't he just jump back up and try and fight Palpatine again? I mean, I feel like he could. It's possible. Yoda's a powerful being. He's a powerful Jedi. Why doesn't he just try again? It's a little bit of a glaring issue, and I understand it's a bit tricky because both of them have to walk away from this fight, both with Palpatine being, unsure of his survival. So it's a very tricky thing to do, and I think it's pretty well done, pretty well handled. But it's a little bit of a glaring issue of, like, why doesn't Yoda just try again? Overall, this is a very, very good fight. I'm a big fan of it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I will do what I must. You will try.
This is such a good fight, okay? I gotta go ahead and say it. This is one of my favorite fights in all of Star Wars. It's just so well done. And you can tell that they put the most effort into this fight, and they put so much work into it. They just poured everything into it because it's such a good fight. It's so cinematic, it feels like an opera almost. The music is amazing, the choreography is amazing, the emotion of these two brothers fighting is amazing. The location of Mustafar, of having this hellish, lava-like planet, is not only a super cool location, but really adds to the fiery anger of Anakin and to the hellish kind of situation that these two characters are in, and the horrible downfall of, like, these two brothers fighting in what feels almost like hell, basically, is just so well done. Not only that, the fight is super long, and I've heard some complaints that this fight is too long, and I completely disagree. It needs to be long, it needs to be a fulfilling fight. They can't just cheap out and do some short fight, and they really don't. They make a super long fight, and it really pays off, if you ask me. And not only that, but the fight keeps changing locations, like, constantly. They just keep moving. As somebody who loves, as I said before, I love lightsaber duels that change location. This is probably the best example of that. And it's just so beautiful looking. And the music, the Battle of the Heroes theme song, is so well done, and so matches the, name of this fight for that to be, the name of this kind of fight, the Battle of the Heroes. It makes so much sense. There's so many other things I could say about this fight. There's so many things. By the way, this is a great shot right here. Best shot probably in the whole thing. This is something that everybody wanted to see, and it was something that had so much going for it. It was a very important kind of scene for Star Wars. It's the final duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan before Anakin goes off against the Darth Vader suit. So they had a lot going for it, and they had to get this right, because if they didn't get this right, the whole movie would just be pointless. None of it would matter. And luckily, they absolutely nailed it. Everything is so perfect, so amazing. Come on, you guys know. If you're a prequel fan, you probably love this scene. Maybe you're not a prequel fan, and maybe you still love this scene. I think everybody loves the, you were the chosen one scene, which is also amazing. This fight has so much going for it, has so much to offer, and is by far one of the best fights in all of Star Wars, next to Duel of the Fates. This fight is an easy 10 out of 10.